something in the upper left.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. We are live here at Boston Celtics, and we're actually in the Celtics studio. First time ever this is going to go out live, and we're in the hub. Here with my awesome co-host, Vala Afshar. Elle's back in the controls. And, of course, we got a studio audience back there. Let's do quick intros, and we're actually going to go name and, of course, team, and, of course, anything special you want to share. Brian, go ahead.
Brian Shield, I'm Senior Vice President and CTO with the Boston RedSox and Fenway Sports Management. Go Celtics.
Michael Israel, Chief Information Officer for the Kraft Group, includes the New England Patriots and the New England Revolution.
All right.
I'm Jay Wessland, CTO of the Boston Celtics.
Woohoo!
Josh Carley, VP of Technology for the Boston Bruins and TD Garden.
Very, very cool. And yes, this is a special edition of our live episode. We are now calling officially episode number 365. And of course, back to you, Elle. We can kick off with the video and we'll jump out of the green room.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us on this special edition of DisrupTV in the City of Champions, Boston. My name is Vala Afshar. I'm the Chief Digital Evangelist for Salesforce and your co-host for the next hour. We welcome you to follow us on X at DisrupTV Show. Send your questions to us live. We'll do our best to answer them in the next hour. It's my privilege to sit next to physically my co-host. He's the founder, CEO of Constellation Research, Ray Wang. He is one of the top futurists to follow on X at RWANG0 and best-selling author of Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Welcome, Ray, to Boston.
Hey, I'm in City of Champions. I'll have to return the favor at some point. But here with amazing co-host, Vala Afshar, Chief Digital Evangelist of Salesforce. He's also the author of Boundless. It's one of the top best-selling business books on Amazon. And of course, if you're not watching his inspirational tweets on Twitter, or X as we call it today, and more importantly, his keynotes, his speaking appearances, of course, and his thought leadership, you can also read his stuff on ZDNet. So with that, welcome to the show, everybody.
I can't tell you how incredible it is to be here at the Celtics headquarters. We're hopefully a couple of weeks away from banner number 18. Please give me the opportunity to introduce the technology leaders who are with us today. These folks represent in collectively 38 championships for New England and Boston. In the 21st century combined, they have 12 championships. So let me introduce Michael Israel, who serves as the Chief Information Officer for the Kraft Group, privately held companies which operate in 90 plus countries and has a diversified interest in professional sports, manufacturing, real estate development, and philanthropy. As CIO, Michael leads the IT functions across the Kraft Group and its operating companies, including Gillette Stadium, the Kraft Sports and Entertainment, the New England Patriots, the New England Revolution, Kraft Analytics Group, and several other businesses. Michael was previously the Senior Vice President of Information Services, Chief Information Officer at Six Flags Entertainment Corporation, where he led IT operations for all Six Flags parks and corporate offices across North America. Welcome, Michael, to DisrupTV.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. Josh Carley, Vice President, Technology at TD Garden and Boston Bruins. Demonstrated leader in entertainment industry, Josh brings more than a decade of experience in technology operations to his role. As Vice President of Technology, Josh drives development of the overall IT strategies elevating the fan experience and requirements, establishing technical vision, leveraging enterprise investments, and aligning technology goals to lead aspects of development and implementation. Most recently, Josh served as the IT executive for Morongo Band of Mission Indians. Welcome, Josh, to DisrupTV.
Thanks so much.
Brian Shields, Senior Vice President, Chief Technology Officer of the Boston Red Sox and Fenway Sports Management Group since 2013, where Brian leads a technology team on all phases of their IT strategy, including digital fan engagement, corporate and ballpark infrastructure, systems and data architecture, cybersecurity, application development, and corporate systems. Brian founded the Boston CIO, the national chairperson of the Inspire CIO organization. Prior to the Red Sox, Brian served as Executive Vice President CIO of the Weather Channel in Atlanta for 13 years. He led technology for weather.com, mobility data analytics, and television broadcast. His work in digital media was recognized with the Technology Emmy Award, and he was named Georgia CIO of the Year. Welcome, Brian, to DisrupTV.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, Jay Wessland, CTO of the Boston Celtics. Jay Wessland has been with the Celtics since 1990, an amazing OG of technology leaders in terms of professional sports. He's responsible for strategy, implementation, management of technology, operation, and facilities for the Boston Celtics. Again, Jay joined the Celtics in 1990 as a consultant and has been a fixture in the office and courtside ever since. During his tenure, Jay has transformed the Celtics technology infrastructure many times over, from pre-PC to modern on-premise virtualization to cloud infrastructure and SaaS application, and managing existing and new facilities and operations. Recent projects included design and construction of the Auerbach Center Practice Facility, the Celtics corporate offices, as well as numerous architectural and technical TD Garden innovations. Again, these four men represent collectively 38 championships for the city of Boston, New England. Thank you so much for being with us today on DisrupTV.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being here. And I think the most important question is, you guys have been steeped in history, lots of excitement, excuse me, and lots of excitement, lots of what's going on. One of the things that is important is really fan experience. Excuse me. So, thanks.
Yeah. I'm choked up before we started just because I'm in the Celtics room with all these trophies.
Yeah, I don't know. So that fan experience is so important. We're going to a digital era from where we are today. How do you maintain that? Take the tradition, the experiences, and bring it together.
So I guess the question around fan experience and kind of marrying that with some of the nostalgia of sports, especially places like Fenway Park and the Boston Red Sox, who've been around since 1901, is a real challenge. I mean, like, we do a remarkable job of I guess keeping Fenway, but at the same time, really kind of finding ways to continue to sort of make it modern and contemporary, and adding new capabilities and features, and really trying to make it as technically sophisticated as we can make it within the confines of a ballpark that was built over 120 years ago. And so that's kind of the challenge for us. I mean, we a couple of years ago launched the MGM Music Hall, which is for those that have been to Fenway, is kind of backed up to a little bit to our right field stands and things, and that hosts like 5,500 seats, and it's a great addition to the ballpark. We continue to look at new ways of expanding areas around Fenway Park, like a lot of major sports teams. We're building what was called Fenway Corners, so 2.3 million square feet. Really kind of transitioning things, not just from like a baseball perspective, but really kind of about fan engagement, about making it sort of an experiential 365-day-a-year kind of opportunity to kind of basically experience some of the benefits of baseball and the things that we can provide there.
And what about you, Brian?
Michael.
Oh, Michael, sorry. Sorry.
So similar to what Brian just said, at Gillette Stadium, our stadium is now 22 years old, and we continually invest in that stadium because we have such competition, not just regionally, but if you look nationally, with some of the newer stadiums that have opened up in recent years, like SoFi or Allegiant out in Las Vegas, Gillette was built 20 plus years ago, but we continually invest in that infrastructure. We have Patriot Place, which is a shopping area, and we have events going on there all the time, and have restaurants and areas where we can entertain our guests before they come or after they come to the to the stadium. But we also, last year, we opened up our new North End Zone facilities, which were one of the largest projects we've ever encountered at Gillette. We have one of the largest end zone video boards that have been brought into production, a new club area, just different ways that you can experience the game, which are very unique to our environment. But in addition to that, constantly investing in how do we make that experience better, whether it's wayfinding, whether it's digital TV, experiences that will take the legacy of the team and bring different moments right to the guests at any point in time.
So the hard infrastructure and the soft infrastructure are all being updated at the same time.
They're all being blended at the same time. It's really it's a huge team effort to turn around and say, how do we make sure the experience at the stadium is better than what you would get at home?
Wow.
Jay, I mean, you started 3 years before the web.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to
Make me feel old.
but the web, the mobile, the social, the cloud, all of these revolutions you experienced.
Yeah, everything has changed. Starting with the arena, I started in the old Garden, and
Unbelievable.
amazingly, the new Garden that we now play in, TD Garden, is 28 or 29 years old at this point, and that's long enough that has required us to go through and change, renovate, upgrade everything, every inch, every seat, everything in the building has all been renovated at least once or twice over the past, certainly not the beginning of those 29 years, but over the last decade to 20 years, we've been through everything in the arena. The place where we're sitting here is the hub on Causeway. This is a relatively new development, has been open for 5 or 6 years, and this is a mixed use bunch of buildings here. We're in the office tower. There is retail on the ground floor. There is hotels and apartments and a little bit of everything here attached to the Garden, and gave us an entrance, a grand entrance to the Garden for the first time. In the early days of TD Garden, we didn't really have a grand entrance. We had a big cement side of the building. So all of that has gone to add to the fan experience. As Brian mentioned, and Michael also, the other things that are going on. There's Big Night Live, which is another concert venue, a smaller concert venue here. So for other things that aren't as big as a concert that might be happening inside the Garden, it might happen at Big Night Live. So plenty of bars and restaurants to help the fan experience. And that's all about the live experience. You know, the scoreboards and all of that are all new at the Garden. And then at the same time, we also focus on the remote experience. And that's the sort of the place where digital comes into play much more. You know, when you're in the arena, you're watching the game live. But if you're at home on first screen, second screen, third screen, however many screens or what screen you're watching on today's world, that we're really trying to enhance that remote experience as well. And it's never going to be the live experience, but it can be very different and also very engaging.
Very cool. Josh, go ahead.
Look, I think the underlying message here is that sports is an adhesive for the community.
Totally.
And if you look at the way that each of us are building these organizations to not just bring the fan in, but enjoy themselves immensely, right? Because at the end of the day, we're not competing with each other. We're competing with people's homes. We're competing with the comfort that they have from their own couch. We're competing with the fact that they don't have a line to their own bathroom.
And beer doesn't cost $20 at home.
Right.
Almost.
So to that point, though, you see that what we're trying to create, and I won't speak for the other gentlemen here, but what at the Bruins and at the Garden we're trying to create is an experience that's all encompassing. Come down here, experience the feel of the place. Walk down Causeway. There's a buzz to it, especially because Jay's doing so well right now, right? The city just thrives off of these kinds of things. So we truly want to be a hub for the entertainment experience.
So the shared experience, that common,
it's a huge deal, especially when you've got a 30-year-old building. I think of it this way: it's that this building is like a beautiful old Victorian home that ultimately you've got to renovate, you've got to redo the pipes, and you got to make sure the Wi-Fi is good. But at the end of the day, it's beautiful. And people want to come back and they want to experience that over and over again. We're just super lucky to be in this city where sports is so important to everyone here.
Absolutely. And the bar in terms of the experience keep growing. You have very difficult jobs because you're bringing, first of all, generational joy. I came to Celtics Bruins games, RedSox game with my dad, and now my son comes with me. So it's decades, it's lifelong of memories that are unforgettable. You've been with the Red Sox, Brian, for 10 plus years. We just talked about a lot of change, multi-screen and social, mobile, delivering value in real time. Let's talk about changing you as a leader. And I'd like all of your perspectives. In a decade of, being a technology lead for not just the Red Sox, but you advised the Liverpool team, Penguin team, the entire Fenway Sports. How have you changed as a leader?
Sure. I think it's interesting. So me working for the Red Sox, it's the first opportunity I've ever had to work in a sports field industry. And it's different. As Josh pointed out, like the first thing that was different is, we're all great colleagues. And even within our own sport, we work really closely with all the other teams, which is very different than other.
Is this normal? Do other cities have CIOs that connect as well as you? I have seen you
know.
four in action.
I don't know. I don't know. I'd like to think we're pretty unique in some ways, but I suspect they all have a relationship to some level. We're trying to
It's very tight knit here, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll be better even more in the future because we currently share vendors and talk about strategies and challenges. As Josh pointed out, we're not competing fans. We're trying to learn from one another where we can. And so I think that's been a really evolving part of kind of who we are. And I think from a leadership perspective, for me, it's because we're all, this is not sports related, but because we're all sort of dealing with the growing emerging technologies, whether it's AI or other sort of characteristics, or dealing with cyber threats and things, having these kinds of relationships and continuing to build on these kind of relationships is, in my mind, is probably the most effective means of being a good leader and kind of staying current and having great friends.
So more collaborative.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the last 10 years. And just before we went live, Michael was recommending multiple vendors for you to consider. So, I just saw it in action that, you're collaborating, creating value.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're all, you tell a story.
But we learn from each other. That's the reality of it is that I don't think any of us have huge staffs. A lot of what we do is by learning by what others are doing. And the pieces of, what's changed over the past 10 years, if not shorter, is that not just our fans, but our stakeholders are consuming technology much differently than they did in the past. Just the explosion over the past 5 years alone, in that what you would have presented to an end user 5 or 10 years ago, not acceptable today. They want everything right now in real time on multiple types of devices. So years ago, we'd have a Mac or we'd have a Windows device. Now we have tablets. Now we have get it to the phone, get it right to my hands. We have end users who are walking around the stadium during an event. They want those stats right there on their phone in real time. They want to know what's happening in the concession stands. What's the attendance? Who's coming through the gates? And that's justified. So the way that we're going about delivering is much different than it has been in the past. It's quicker. It's right there. Whereas in the past, maybe you'll put it in a report or in a dashboard. No, now you want AI to predict what's happening
real time,
so that we can be dealing with it before it's happening. But at the same time, we can't all rest on our laurels. We learn from each other because we don't have huge staffs to turn around and say, let's try this, let's try this. We have very short windows to deliver to our end users and to the guests coming in. So if I can learn from Brian, if I can learn from Jay, that's great. Or my peers that are in the league itself. Because while we're doing all of that, we still have to deal, as Brian said, with cybersecurity and the increasing threats. We all have very high profile brands that we're trying to protect at the same time. And it's critical.
Sure.
We're only as good as we were, not just yesterday, but right now.
And you're in a professional sports setting where precision and speed and accountability, that's your culture. There's a scoreboard being kept on IT and technology. And I remember talking to you, Jay, well over 10 years ago, and you shared a story of when Kevin Garnett finished a game and he gave his interviews and suited up. He expected you to deliver videos of him every time he touched the ball during the game, offense and defense. So over a decade ago, you had a pressure of delivering very personalized, very fast montage of his ability to play. So take us now, fast forward to today.
And take his criticisms on where he said, you've got me for 8 rebounds. I'm pretty sure I had 9. He would have.
You don't argue with Kevin Garnett, I suppose, even if you had the facts. Yeah.
But this was pre-AI.
This is well over 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Manual, still all computerized stats. The reason I started in 1990 was that was the first year the NBA started with computerized stats courtside. Is why I was brought in. in a very, at the time, non-tech business. I was brought in at the beginning in the NBA of adding tech to basketball, and have grown ever since. And that's one thing that's really changed over those 3 decades is, I started as a tech person in a very non-tech business, and it was actually great because there wasn't so much tech. There was, we added that courtside statistics, and we started adding more and more in digital video and things, but you could do it. People would say, I want to do this, and I could deliver. Well, fast forward to today. Today, now we all, as Michael said, have very small groups, but technology is everywhere. It's on everything, on every employee, and everything we do is tech. And you're no longer in a position where you can just do everything. Somebody comes to you and they say, we want to do this. And many times you do it or you try and do it, but you can't always do everything because tech is everything and we're only so many people and so much budget and everything. So the world has changed so much to where tech now affects everything.
I met one of your interns who interned when you were in 2019 for only 3 months, and now he's here full time, and you can see the joy in his face. Is part of the leadership is just building that same chemistry you see with the teams you support with your staff and your organization.
Yeah, it's definitely a much more fun place to be, and it's easier to engage.
Easy to say that when you're in a final.
Yeah, when you're. But it is easier, I think, to engage people here than in building widgets at some corporate American company that builds widgets. The goals here are very clear in all of pro sports, right? The goals are win games and sell tickets. It's a pretty straightforward thing, but because the goals are clear, it does make it to be an engaging place, and to be in that arena or in that park for a big game, there's no experience like that, especially in Boston. Boston is a sports town like no other. Maybe New York comes close.
I'd love to be an intern for any of you, but I just don't think I have the technical chops. Josh, leadership changes for you.
Wow.
10 years of being a technology leader and then some.
So I the previous 20 years, previous lives, I worked in casinos and resorts, doing a lot of building and operating. So getting the opportunity to come out here and work for the Boston Bruins. So just when an original 16 calls, you go. That's my mantra at this point. You go. As a hockey fan, since my youth, it was an absolute no-brainer, right? So coming here, experiencing the city, understanding what the fandom requires of you and of the players, right? There's a massive sense of responsibility to uphold that, whether it's from the stats that I'm delivering to the fan on their mobile device or the stats that I'm delivering to my operational team to understand what's our ingress points or what's our ingress volume at this point. That's critical to the experience, not only of the fan side, but the operational side. The fan side, however, and this is a growth point for me, I come into this as a fan. So I'm looking at this going, oh, imagine all this really cool stuff that you could do. And there's a lot of really cool stuff you can do, but does it connect with the business?
Sure.
You never want to implement technology just for the sake of implementing technology. You got to do the right thing for the right reason.
Yep.
Case in point, we demoed an on-demand replay system for the playoffs this year, where with a 55-inch touchscreen TV in one of our suites, you could walk up and look at multiple camera angles of the play on the ice. As a hockey nerd, I'm seeing this going, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen, because I know before the officials do on the ice whether or not that goal went in on a high stick. So I'm pointing to my friends going, look, I can tell you right now. And okay, so there's a 6-second gap between me and the guy on the ice, but still I feel cool because I know it already, right? I think it's great. Do 80% or 90% of the people who are in those suites think it's just as great? Some might not. So I have to make sure that what technology I'm presenting to the guest is something A, they're going to use, B, find value in, and C, it's something that my organization sees value in as well. Because again, you'd never want to implement technology just because it's there. So from a leadership perspective, I've had to differentiate fandom from the business. And then once you disconnect those two, you've got to reconnect them somehow in a way that keeps you engaged. Because at the end of the day, I want to ring just as much as the guys on the ice do, right?
Absolutely.
Because you care, and you care about the fan experience, and you care about the business. And so you've got to find a way to meld those.
I was going to say, Vala, one of the things I think that Josh said well, it separates us probably from other technology leaders is like, even when we're recruiting for our own teams, our groups, is that you have to find people that are great with technology, but think fan first almost. And that's not always easy to do.
Sure.
Like, there's plenty of technology people who don't necessarily appreciate what the business is doing because they're just in love with the technology. I think it's a little bit different in sports. You really kind of try to blend that so you can find people who, that you don't want to be overly passionate with and lacking the tech chops, but you do want to find folks that are always thinking about the fan, to Josh's point, like how can we make the fan experience better? What would I do differently?
Right.
You know, what do my friends, what do my, you know, other associates think about?
I mean, it is a
making
commitment
better,
to come to a game. So I can see why you're so deliberate and so focused about making sure it's a beautiful experience.
Without it, you're missing the mark.
Yeah.
If you're not thinking like a fan, then you're not putting the best experience in front of them. And when you come back to this experiential nature of sports, especially in this city, you have to think like a fan. But if you get a little bit over your skis in that, you're not necessarily going to create the best value for the organization. And that's a big learning point.
So there's a
Right.
balance between being fan-centric and also being
There
business.
absolutely has to be.
Tie into that also, I have an incredible dedicated staff, approximately 60 people at Gillette.
That's great.
But we have day jobs. We're running IT for an enterprise that's got manufacturing, that's got philanthropy, that's, as you said, it's got all of these different caveats. And by the way, on all these nights a year, forget the day job, we're entertaining all these people coming into the building, and we're making sure that we're taking off our true day-to-day IT hat and saying, how do I make sure all these systems are running? How do I make sure all of these people are entertained?
Well, it's a great point there, because we're trying to figure out where does the technology role change, especially in fan experience and in sports, and what you've had in other industries that you've brought together. And you're a perfect example. You're sitting in a portfolio of all these. Where do you see the cross-sharing and learnings that come through that?
The biggest piece for me, and I tell my staff this as well, is throughout my career, I use my senses. So during an event, tomorrow night, we have the Rolling Stones coming to Gillette Stadium. And I will be in that stadium, walking on the concourses, seeing how the fans of the Stones, our customers, engage. How are they engaging with point of sale? What was their experience entering? What was their experience in parking? What can we do better? So it's not, I think I've watched 15 minutes of a football game in 5 years that I've been there, but it is engaged in what's happening around us, because the next day we're sitting there saying, okay, what could we have done better? What went on? What happened? What's going on? Stuff happens every day. So what do we learn from everything? And that piece, whether I'm in the stadium or in one of our manufacturing facilities, it's watching how the technology is used on a daily basis. And how can we change it to adopt to changing behaviors, or what I call the normality of daily life. People will walk by things because it's been there for 5 years. Well, let's change that.
So
Well,
you
why?
do walk the stadium during concerts?
Every
Because I just made a note, Taylor Swift, Michael. Yeah.
generally Michael will do 30,000 steps an event.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
Wow.
but that's how I learn, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? What can I change from one year to the next to make sure that we are staying ahead of the curve?
So it's dynamic feedback. It's that
dynamic
experience.
feedback. It doesn't matter if it's a Taylor Swift concert or if I'm watching how I have an employee in a manufacturing facility and we can detect if they're wearing a safety vest. It's those types of things that you turn around and say, I can use technology to solve our business problems.
Makes a lot of sense. What about you? I mean, given your experiences at Weather Channel, other places, what have you brought to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I mean, regardless of sort of the industry, there's a lot of things that are kind of the same. I think one thing that's a little bit unique around sports is, as Mike was pointing out, in many ways we have a front office that operates like any other traditional business. ERP systems, sales systems, G&A, all the other kind of things that you would expect really kind of with any line of business. And then we have a facility where we service, in our case, like 30 to 35,000 fans or more, type of thing. And so there's that other added change. Then we've got 7 different ballparks that are scattered around the country that, we try to make sure that are staying leading edge and supporting everything that's required for a player and supporting our baseball operations organization so that, they can draft the right people, they can sort of do player development, they can, work with folks so they can do other aspects of whatever Moneyball 2.0 represents and things. So it's kind of very different. So when I think of my world a little bit and kind of what I've taken from it, the Weather Channel, we were very, very progressive on like digital media assets. And so we spent a lot of our time thinking and partnering with like MLB, each of us, work with our respective leagues. MLB is very progressive in many ways with the technology. So we're constantly looking for ways that we can partner together and identify opportunities where, we can build out new technologies, new practices. The other thing that's also fun about being part of a broader league is that, different teams are at different places in their respective kind of journeys. Some are, more progressive, some maybe not be as progressive in some areas, some might be more focused on sales versus player development or other sort of aspects and things. And so we're always looking to learn from each other and the other 29 clubs in baseball. And I think, you know, from my experience, I'm trying to bring like digital leadership, software engineering, product engineering, and really kind of customer service, you know, that from my background to sort of a brand new industry.
But what's interesting is it's multiple business models, right? I mean, sports isn't just one. I mean, you're in construction, you're in entertainment, you're in concessions, you're in fan experience. It's all of it. And when you take all those different experiences, like you've had many experiences, Jay, as well, like from like, you know, building in the microcomputing age to where you are today. How does it all come together in terms of your CIO leadership?
A lot of it is we're fortunate because we have small staffs. We've all mentioned we have pretty small staffs, but because of that, we can
Big
be
brand,
nimble.
small staff.
Big brand,
Big
small
brand.
staffs. But because of that, we can be flexible and we can do a lot of things. Josh mentioned the replay thing. You know, imagine trialing and rolling out this touchscreen replay thing during playoffs from nowhere, right? It wasn't there. Vendor came in. I played with that before it went to the suite where Josh showed it to other people at the arena, and to just from nowhere say, let's do this. Let's bring in this vendor. We're going to work with a vendor, bring this technology, demo this technology, put it in our back pocket and say, do we want to do this or not do this next year or whatever? But we got to do it all during the, you know, a couple weeks of playoffs because our staffs are small and nimble and talented that we can do those things. And that's what really continues to bring it together and make it enjoyable here, is that we can do these things. We are not stuck behind giant corporate infrastructures that don't let us do these things. We have the ability to try new things, and we're always trying something new, and nonstop. And you'll certainly finals, which is coming up here for us next week. You know, you're going to see on TV or in person lots of things that nobody's ever done before, because that's what you do every year. And the big events in the NBA, it's finals and All-Star, are the places where they try and roll out a little bit of everything. And it's just exciting to be able to, from nowhere, from something we haven't done before, do it, say, this worked great, let's do it again next year, or wow, that was terrible, throw it away, let's not do it next year.
Any sneak peeks you can share?
Breaking news.
Uh,
No.
There's not a lot that I can share, but you'll see if
But
you
watch,
watch.
we should definitely watch it.
We're all
We're gonna get something brand new.
You'll see.
We're all
Yeah,
good.
yes.
Josh, what about you?
Listen, the agility that Jay's touching on is critical, right? But let's remove the sports industry from the conversation for just a second, and let's understand that IT technology as a whole is a service-oriented industry. The moment we forget that is the moment that we failed abjectly, right? So we're no longer in an age where we can sit in a data closet and plug things in and just go leave me alone. It's not about that anymore. It's about creating that camaraderie, not just with your guest, but with those that you work with. But agility is absolutely crucial to being able to do that. So why does that service-oriented tentpole matter? Because if I'm going to my vendors and I'm saying, you know what, I got this great idea. I want to do this thing. Let's make this happen. Let's do this in 6 days. And our vendors go, sweet, I'm in. And then boom, it's available for us to see, for us to manage, for us to test. That's critical to the next stage of guest engagement. So again, it's our own service-oriented cultures that ensure that we're focusing on the right kinds of things and we're doing it for the right reasons. And we're being collaborative with our other partners about, hey guys, what do you think about this? Have you ever tried it? What are the pitfalls that I'm not seeing? And then, help a brother out, because at the end of the day, we're all kind of trying to make sure that we're doing the right things for the right reasons.
I love that. I love that. You're all part of successful sports franchises. I remember when the Celtics won the last championship in 2008 in Butu, like the coach brought this mindset of I am because we are, and the team-oriented relationships that brought that chemistry to an 66 win team that 1-6 and blew out the Lakers in 40+ points. I don't know why I'm bringing that up. I know why I'm bringing it up. I want each of you to share, like, what are some team lessons when you see these like Hall of Fame coaches, do your job, it's system, we're a team. What are those? Can you mention a lesson that you've brought to your team watching these great athletes, great coaches build dynasties. And all of you have experienced that. Maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, I was fortunate to start in 2013, where we won a World Series that year, and which had way more to do with David Ortiz than it did to the IT department. But I having started that year too, it was, I think internally we looked at it a little bit like, what does it take to have a world-class or World Series caliber IT team? What do they do that we should be doing? And I think one of the things we try to adopt is a staffing model. Like if you think about professional baseball, it's not that different from other sports, but with professional baseball, you have millions of people that play baseball, which is great at young ages. And then they go through college, and then a select number of those make it to low A levels, and then work their way up this pyramid, this really challenging pyramid. But if you think about like building a team, you fundamentally have, you have core team, like any group would. You've got, so hopefully some Hall of Famers or some All-Stars. So you get some really key people. You've got free agents that I tend to think of as in the form of consultants or contractors. And then you've got sort of a farm system, which I tend to think of it as, either people that were prospecting. So I think our jobs are always about attracting and retaining talent, or interns and other sort of groups of people that we bring in. So I think it's like, what I think of what I learned from and continue to learn from our team is like, how do you create that blend? And then you think about the role of player development in sports. It's like, how do we do people development? How do we do employee development so that, we're continuing to sort of grow them and
constant
things like
recruitment,
that.
retention,
I
celebration.
think it never stops.
Never stop.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the job of a great leader, is just always building a farm system around you.
You mentioned one of our accolades within the Patriot system, which is Coach Belichick saying, "Do your job," and that's you'll see that throughout the stadium. That legacy still stays there.
Sure.
I started in this business way back in the early '80s. I was working for my dad. He was my key mentor as I came through. I worked for him for almost 20 years before I went to Six Flags. But one of the things that he taught all of us who worked for him was, don't ask anyone to do something you wouldn't do yourself.
Yep.
And you can find me preparing for a game. I'll be installing a point of sale terminal. I'll be running a cable. I'll be in an IDF saying, what's this cable? Why is this here? Because
you're doing cable management.
We're in it. We are in it together.
I love
And our approach is standardization. Our approach is, as Brian said, staff development. I sit down with every one of my staff members at the beginning of the year, and then at mid-year, we do mid-year reviews, and we have step-up meetings. Where do you want to be in 3 years? Where do you want to be from a career path? Where do you see yourselves? I don't expect folks to work with me forever, but I want to turn around when they leave the organization, if they leave, to say, I got just as much out of the organization, if not more, than I put in. And I will challenge every one of my employees. I will meet you halfway. If you're going to invest in yourself, then I will be investing in you. And that has been throughout my career. I have folks who have I've seen them just grow, not just at the craft organization, but in my previous roles. And these are folks who listen to what you're saying. These are folks who want to learn, want to do, and not just sit.
That's got to bring you joy. Just
It's absolutely developing staff from within, working with consultants. As we all keep saying, we have relatively small staff, so you need to know when to lean on outsiders, when to bring folks in to help you through those tough times or on new emerging technologies. But more important, to challenge your staff to say, how are you going to get better? How are you going to develop on your own? Where do you want to be?
And what a culture of meritocracy, because I believe the current Celtics coach is going to be the youngest coach ever in the finals. So, it's experience.
He's the youngest coach in the league at the moment.
At the moment, yeah. So talk about like lessons from the team that you bring to your staff. For example, having the highest level of accountability to the youngest member of the club.
Yeah, you mentioned Doc's buzzword from 2008 Ubuntu is sort of I'm better because of you, you're better because of me, we're all better together.
Love that.
And that is definitely true. I try and make sure we all are working together as the team does. Our team currently is constituted, originally under Brad Stevens and now under Joe Mazzulla, is certainly been focused on that. Brad Stevens was a big supporter of players are interchangeable, and he's not going to build a team around this player in that position or this player in that. They should all be pieces of the team that can be moved around, and if this person's not there, next man up, right? And we see that all the time, including this year in the playoffs.
It's like every game there's a different hero.
Yeah,
You know, the clutch rebound, the clutch block, the clutch steal.
or
It's just
multiple.
spread.
You know,
Yeah.
as we saw the last few games, it took a few big plays
Yeah.
by a few people, and that's true in IT and in the facilities business as well. It takes
Team.
good, detailed work by a lot of people doing on a lot of different areas to get to a big goal. And I kind of frame it generally as like, we got to think about the big goals, but then we got to act little things. You can't fix everything all at once and do all of this stuff way up here, but you can affect it from down low. You know, as Mike said, he'll patch a cable, he'll run a wire, whatever. You know, in my case, I do that sometimes.
I've never been to a Celtics game where I don't see Jake before the game, at halftime, end of the game, on the table, under the table, next to the everywhere.
Less these days, because as my crew has grown, less than that these days. But mop the court if need be. You know,
I love that.
Total hands-on, roll up your sleeves.
Lead by example.
Yeah, that actually happened this year. I don't know. We 2 people. It takes 2 people. We generally put 2 people to mop the court, and the time was up and time was running. We have a small window of windows when we mop the court, and one guy was missing, and the other guy was there with the mop. And I said, you know what? I'm mopping the court with
Chief
you. And we just
Technology
mopped
Officer of the
because
Celtics.
it takes a lot of little details to get to those big high-level goals.
Love that.
I've tried repairing the ice. They won't let me on the ice. So he's
No Zamboni.
no, they won't let me on the Zamboni. It's tough.
We all wanted to drive that since we were kids.
Man, trust, there are a ton of people waiting to ride the Zamboni. Right? Listen, when you look at the way that these world-class players are playing, it's a wonderful example to an IT organization that, again, there's only a certain number of people that you can rely upon to get that job done. And I'll give you an example of that kind of difficulty. When you watch a world-class player like David Pasternak just get crushed against the boards every single game, he's being double teamed. He's got the top 2 lockdown defensemen on him every single shift. Wouldn't be difficult to get discouraged for a second. Wouldn't be difficult to just kind of go, you know what, I'm doing my best.
Even when you're publicly called out by the coach, and then he comes and scores the winning goal with a smile.
That's what I'm saying, is that at the end of the day, your moment's coming, right? Continue to play your game, continue to focus. And if you watch that, I will tell you straight up, I've been to a lot of sports events. Game 7 against Toronto in overtime was one of the greatest sports experiences I have ever been a part of. The roof exploded. It was just one of those, it was electric. It was beyond amazing. But you could see the relief on his face. You could see that moment of you break out, you do your job, you do what you're there to do. That brings so much emotional satisfaction, so much professional greatness in that single moment that you point to that and you go, listen, we're going to come up against challenges every day. Some are going to be harder than others. Do your work, do what you're paid to do, and focus. But at the end of the day, have fun, because this is what it's all about. And you saw Pasternak score. Everybody enjoyed it. We were all a part of that success. So you try to preach that to your team day in and day out when times get tough.
That's amazing.
Well, and when you guys think about what's happening in terms of all those changes that are happening, not just the expectations of the fans, expectations of your stakeholders, there's also this pace of change in technology. That rate of technology change is happening super fast, from a cybersecurity threat to what's the latest thing into AI to what's the latest thing in spatial computing that pops up. How do you guys keep up? I'll start with you, Jay.
Well, talking to people like you, everybody in this room, we talked about the collaboration amongst ourselves, which has gone on, with this group of 4 and other groups before this. But we've also recently started meeting with our staffs as well. The staffs below us have been meeting together. We had a meeting with all 4 teams. Some of the IT staffs here. We had one at Fenway recently. So the staffs are starting to talk more amongst themselves, because pro sports is different. As Brian said, there's a lot of things that are like an average business that happen here, but there's a lot of things that just aren't like an average business too. So it's only by talking to other teams can we actually learn. And I've been, by sitting in these meetings with all 4 teams' staffs, I've actually learned a lot. I'm like, wow, they do all of that, and God, we got to get better because we're not doing enough. Or wow, we do better than that. It's great. So talking to people, listening, certainly reading, try and stay up on all of those methods.
No, I love the collegiality and the fact that you guys are coming together, because it's one of the hardest things to do in any organization, and then externally outside of an organization. So Michael, what do you do?
Outside of what Jay just said, we lean heavily on some of our vendor partners, and we have some really key strategic relationships with vendors like Dell, Cisco, Extreme Networks, where we're learning what are they doing in other stadiums, what are the challenges that are out there. We spend a considerable amount of time right now on cybersecurity and making sure that we have our disaster plans, our cyber plans built and tested and continually evolving on that side. Probably takes up half of my time at this point is looking at how are we protected on a daily basis and what can we do differently. It's key for us, and the education that has to go with all of our staff members as to what to watch for, what to do, how are we training our employees. We're even training our players as to what to watch for in their personal lives at this point when it comes to cyber awareness and phishing campaigns and these types of pieces. You saw what went on in LA recently with one of the players. I mean, that's the type of thing some of these folks, if you look at the rookies coming in, these kids are fresh out of college. They don't know what should I click on? What shouldn't I click on? So we're doing a variety.
Well, they don't know if that's really truly the salary information that everyone posted, right?
But it's those types of things where we're looking, saying, how do we make sure we increase awareness across the board as well?
Right, but prompt injection, you got phishing, you got all these other things that pop up.
The
threat vectors are
now we're dealing with vishing and voice related pieces.
Yeah, and then you think too, like another challenge we all have on that same topic is we've got a large number of seasonal employees.
Yes.
So like in our case, we'll go from 500 full-time employees to 2,000. And so now you have 1,500 people, many of which are new, to us. And there's a lot to learn in sports too. Like there's a lot of, you think of all the questions a fan can pose. And a lot of these folks are very kind of front and center fan facing. If you think about that, it requires a really significant investment. Our HR teams and other teams do an amazing job of getting, these folks that, formerly worked at other companies to understand all the different idiosyncrasies of professional baseball. And
can you share and vet those employees as well? Like some seasonal employees, like fall sports versus spring versus, or is it pretty hard to do?
I don't, most of them, I think we're about 2/3 of ours kind of return on a regular basis.
Okay.
I don't know if we have any that kind of bounce between different organizations.
On the concessions and food service side, I'd say is the place where there's the most overlap between the groups.
Probably there. Josh, what about you?
We're
rate of change.
So we're very fortunate to be a part of the Delaware North organization. So when you look at our cybersecurity posture, you look at it.
So you got the scale of it.
We do. We have a number of different subsidiaries that are able to lean on the mothership a little more because all of those things are being vetted. We're able to pick out of a portfolio of options to say, look, this is our business requirement. Here are the things that have already been vetted and tested. Let's go with this route. Flip side of that coin is we're also very lucky to be able to go back to Delaware North to say, hey, here's a really cool thing that we think we'd like to implement. Here's how we'd like to see it done. Can you help us do that? So, and again, small staff, we don't have the ability to stay as agile as we'd like to. And listen, we're here constantly, right? Our focus is very, very singular. So it's difficult to stay abreast of everything. You need a massive team to help do that. So we rely upon Delaware North to ensure that we're staying ahead of the game.
Let's kind of dig a little bit deeper in terms of expectations with your partners, your software, hardware, technology partners. You're launching, a sports platform as a service group because your experience with consulting with Liverpool and Penguins and the Sox and the entire Fenway Sports group. And we have a lot of technology companies, senior leaders watching our show. What advice do you give to vendors to earn your business, earn your trust, actually become a strategic partner? What do they need to demonstrate to you quickly in order for you to welcome them into your high pressure, high expectation, super accountable world that you all live in?
I think the most important thing is when you think about the difference between sort of a vendor and a partner, to me, it's sort of keeping us top of mind, so that you're doing something with us and then you're, a week later, you're in Manhattan having a conversation with another company and, they think of something there, boy, Brian mentioned this challenge and these guys are doing something very similar. So I feel like for me, it's like when I was at the Weather Channel, we used to almost give our vendors a scorecard. and we would evaluate them
In
not
terms
just
of how they would connect you with.
yeah, well, how they did, not just did you do your job, but
Yeah.
did you go beyond that
Sure,
and
sure.
make us sort of feel like we're part of a partnership. And, and I think at the Red Sox, it's the same general way. We don't score it per se, but we do look at it from the perspective of, checking the box as a good vendor is great. But, as all of us have said, we rely more industries do. And so as a result of, because there's so many, touch points to what we do, whether it's in ballparks or stadiums or arenas and, our back offices, and we run multiple of those, and we're all part of a portfolio of sports families and things like that, that we have a lot of vendors. And so one of the things there is trying to make sure that we're always keeping like best of breed, and we're always continuing to kind of evaluate them. We evaluate against one another. And you brought up sort of thinking about it a little bit as sort of a sports franchise as a service. That's kind of how I think of it now across Fenway Sports Group, which is as we look at what might be our next potential acquisition, like how do we make sure that we're well positioned so that we can kind of somewhat lift and shift the tech infrastructure and so the best practices and policies and things so that in vendors, candidly too, we bring vendors along as well. So it works both ways. So
And
in the
you
next-
all have so much from digital twins, biometric authentication. You have building responsibilities. You're doing RPA AI to improve manufacturing process for the craft group. Like the span of influence you have is, Nesson, Boston, the Fenway Sports Group is and growing. It seems like every month or every quarter you guys are announcing something. So can you add to that, Michael? Like expectations of a vendor, not to just be a vendor, but a partner.
So to add on to what Brian just said, if you think about what we've discussed in the past 50 or so minutes about how we're treating fan engagement and what we're doing to make sure the fans are having a positive experience. If you are a vendor, and if you're coming in, you're selling me a software package, you get that license sale and you walk away.
Ooh.
Are you going to be here in 3 years if you're not helping me implement? Yeah. If there are 100 attributes of that software and I've only implemented 3, is that a successful implementation?
No.
So do you become a integrated partner to make sure that we are using this tool to the best that it can?
So for you, the marriage experience has to be better than the courtship experience.
Correct.
Okay.
The courtship is there. If you sell me that product and you walk away and
You're
I don't
done.
hear from you again,
You're done.
I just had a vendor today send me a note. I heard you're not renewing. Well, yeah, I haven't heard from you in 6 months. And by the way, when I called for support, you weren't there. So you have to be vested in our success. As we've said, I'm vested in making sure our fans are having a positive experience. We need to make sure that, listen, we have some very high profile names here. If you are not successful with us, we talk.
Oh, your sponsors are
We
the
talk,
biggest companies.
we turn
in there.
around, and we're turning around, and we don't just talk amongst ourselves here.
Yeah.
But I may get a call from someone who's in another city saying, "What do you think of this? What do you think of this?" Listen, if it's not positive, no, you shouldn't use our name as a reference.
And you're leading the largest CIO consortium in New England, so you talk to everybody.
Yeah, well, and I think what people realize, especially in sports, is that we do share a lot, but also I think in sports we're also like kind of fast followers because I think as Jay said, we don't have large staffs in many cases. If someone solves a problem, there's a quick pivot where a lot of us will find something that works and we'll tend to move with it. As a result of that, it's both an opportunity and a threat, I guess, a little bit to some vendors, right? Because if you're one of those vendors, then you can go from one club to 20 clubs pretty quickly. But it works the other way too. If like lack of performance will adversely impact you very quickly here.
Yeah. The one rule I have about vendors, I've been on the vendor side of the world my whole career. Everybody makes mistakes. Everything gets into trouble. Everybody screws up. And so the key thing, good vendors know how to correct mistakes, get themselves out of trouble and move forward and go on. That's a partnership. A bad vendor gets into trouble, can't get themselves out. Those are the vendors you can't work with. You also mentioned sponsor partners. I mean, we have vendors that are also sponsor partners. We have vendors that aren't sponsor partners. We have sponsor partners that aren't vendors. We have all of those combinations, but the expectations are the same from a vendor standpoint. It's got to be a good vendor. It's got to be a good relationship, whether it's a sponsor partner or not. We have plenty of great relationships.
So when things go wrong, you want the vendor to say, "Dear Celtics, it's our problem until it's no longer yours."
Yeah, well, we'll work together to fix it. I don't expect anybody to do anything, and I'm going to
Well, it's a
sit there
true
and say,
partnership.
go fix it. I'm just sitting here
Yeah,
going to drink
yeah,
my beer.
yeah, sure,
No,
sure.
but we're going to do it together, and I want them to work hard to get out of trouble.
But it's a true
I love
partnership, and it's also when you look at co-innovation, co-creation, you're also looking for that,
Mhm.
right? That give get
Innovation. Yeah.
for that innovation.
A lot of times a vendor will see these worldwide brands. To them, it's a feather in their cap. We live this every day.
Right.
So if you want our business, let's not jerk around on price. Sharpen your pencil as sharp as possible. Let's go. I do not have time to wait.
Yeah.
We got to go, because at the end, look, summertime. You think summertime is great, is nice and chilled because it's the off season? Oh no, right? For him, it's the busiest time of the year. For me, it's even busier than the regular season, because here's when I do all my major projects. So I need commitment from my vendor partners that you're going to be a part of our future moving forward. That we're not just a badge that you're going to put on your LinkedIn site to say, hey, we're a partner of the Boston Bruins. Because at the end of the day, if you don't treat us with the respect that we think we deserve, if we're not a priority in your list, you're going to take that logo off your LinkedIn page very, very quickly.
So mutual respect, bias for action,
Has to be
and performance. You have to
every
deliver.
single time.
Note to our producer: don't put any of the logos on DisrupTV. But go ahead.
The timing,
Yeah.
what Josh mentioned on the timing is interesting. Also, us winter sports people, we do our big projects in the summer. We're exactly the
Yep.
same. We save all the big projects. We'll do that this summer. We put everything off to the summer.
It's not like you're
because-
not doing anything. There's
Right.
concerts going
Oh,
on. there's
trust.
other-
We're busy.
Yeah.
Don't make no mistake. We're busy.
Yeah, man.
during the regular season.
In the regular season.
We're just trying to get by day to day. But because we're on that schedule of big projects in the summer, off season, and just try and keep things going during the regular season, we're also therefore on the same schedule as the universities. And that
Yeah,
actually makes it
sure.
hard on a lot of the big
Sure.
vendors, because they have the same schedules at the universities. You're doing a network switch upgrade. Well, they're doing 30 of them at 30 universities,
Right.
especially in New England where there's so many universities. So it does make it difficult on the vendors to be on our schedule, and as well as the university schedules.
Best time to repair the roof is during the sunny days. So
Yes, it is.
these
Yes,
guys-
it
that's a good-
Yes, it is.
I like
But we're gonna do a quick lightning round. I'm gonna ask you 3 quick questions. Favorite sci-fi gadget of all time? Your wish for 2025? Yours should be short.
yeah. He's 3 weeks from that wish coming through.
Yeah, and what do you see AI is going to be? So we didn't even talk about AI on this show.
That's awesome.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So, Brian,
No particular order here. I'd like us to win another world championship next year. That would be good. I suspect we would all have that wish. I think when I think of next year too, I'm so excited about AI. I'm a huge advocate for what I think it will ultimately become. I think we're all kind of in a very kind of early stage, kind of evaluation phase. I feel like we've kind of kissed a lot of frogs here. At the same time, I've been blown away by the capabilities in other areas. And so we're really, I am super bullish on kind of what that means. Our big focus is really around employee productivity. How do we make our employees even more productive?
augmenting, accelerating. Like
Yeah, how do we give them the information they need to do a better job servicing fans?
And meaningful
running
use
a regular
cases.
business.
You're
Right,
meaningful use
absolutely.
cases.
And we've also very narrow ones too.
Yeah.
We're doing some great work with partners and video and other sort of
Yeah.
unique ones. But I think in terms of being able to touch a lot of people, there's some really interesting technologies out there that we're super excited
My
about.
favorite sci-fi gadget.
Oh God.
My goodness, I'll come back to me. I have to
Yeah.
think
I'll come back
about
to you.
that.
I'll come back to you.
Does my mobile phone count?
No,
Yeah.
no, that was 20 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
That doesn't count. I was going to say my iPad is my life.
Yeah.
2025, we're preparing for FIFA's World Cup in 26. So that's going to be a big piece for us at Gillette.
Enormous.
From an AI perspective,
You're talking 8 to 10 weeks of just madness.
just 8 to 10 weeks of just sheer madness. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's going to be very interesting from that perspective. From an AI piece, really, we're digging in right now as to what problems we can solve.
Yeah.
And the key for that is looking at not just a overall template, but specifically when we're talking to vendors, what can you help us solve together? And we're really looking at, as Brian said, workflows, really taking the data that we have decades of data, and how can we use it to really predict what's going on?
Right.
Take the pieces of the dashboards, the reports, and bring it to life.
Yeah.
And really looking at solutions that can just help us do that. So that will be key for us as we go forward.
yeah, no, good AI requires your data. And if you've got great data, you can start there.
We have a lot of good data. We have a lot of bad data. So how do we parse that and
Right.
say, okay,
Yeah.
And on the manufacturing side, you're probably really
The
experimenting.
manufacturing side is an interesting piece, and we will borrow from
Yeah,
both.
sure.
We'll take from manufacturing
Totally.
to the stadium and the
Totally.
teams and vice versa. But we have some very interesting pieces as to how we can take production data, make those machines more efficient. At the same time,
And computer vision, the stuff you're doing
the
there.
computer vision is key, especially when you're looking to maintain equipment. Doesn't matter if it's a video board in the stadium or a pulper in a recycling mill. How can you take
And
that?
let's not have the pendulum swing all the way to everything automated, everything machine. Human intelligence still matters, right?
That's I was gonna say, my AI answer, as you know, is
Oh, wait, but favorite sci-fi gadget? Yeah.
Yeah.
I said iPad, but I don't know. What,
Yeah, I
All right. Yeah. So we'll start with AI because I am a believer in AI. I took a course in university earlier than all the rest of you, I'm afraid, in 1983, and we were writing and studying theory and writing code for AI recursive projects way back then.
And expert
I've been
systems. Yeah.
interested ever since. However, as Mike also mentioned, we need to have a goal. We're not going to implement AI for the sake of AI.
Yeah.
We use plenty of it today, every day, especially in the IT world, cybersecurity.
Sure.
AI helps alert us when there are things that need to be alerted on, and not alert us when things aren't. And it collects a whole lot of data about every packet that's running around this network we're talking to you over. These packets are being recorded and dumped to a whole bunch of back-end systems, and we're not getting alerted because the AI says, "Oh, those are just okay packets."
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a believer in AI, but let's not say AI is going to fix everything and do everything for everybody. We got to have specific goals. What are the projects? What do we want to do? What's the governance around it so that the AI is confined to the place the data it's supposed to be and not elsewhere? So I want people to use their natural intelligence to harness the AI.
Well, when and where you insert a human becomes even more important. It's not where you automate, but when and where you insert.
Absolutely.
So that's I forget. 25 the current year at least.
Current year.
Absolutely. Let's win a championship. That's our goal right now, and we're not focused on anything else. And once we do that, then we'll get a couple weeks off and relax a little bit. Maybe go to Fenway, see a ball game.
That would be amazing. And get the team
have a
back
dog.
for next
All
year.
right, favorite
That's what
sci-fi
we-
gadget? I'm gonna try one more time.
And so I'm gonna lose because I agree. I grew up building supercomputers that would build this room and cost tens of millions of dollars, and I now carry in my pocket that phone
It's the iPhone.
that is
Smartphone.
Maybe
that
we'll talk
does
about
more
Neuralink
than
10
those
years from
$1 million
now. Yeah.
supercomputers, and that's amazing to me. And that's happened in my 40-year career
That's amazing.
from supercomputer to in my pocket.
Yeah,
Pretty wild.
I agree.
Josh.
So, okay, let's start with sci-fi gadget.
Okay, he really has one. I can tell.
Oh, I've been thinking about this. Since you started over there, I was like, oh, where am I going to go? Listen, it would be easy to say a lightsaber if you're going sci-fi.
Yeah.
Okay, it would directly go off in my face. I would be dead. That would be bad. I would be that guy. What's going on? Wham, done. So I'm going to go with the speeder bike from Return of the Jedi because the moment I saw those when I was a kid, I was in love with the sound. It's just that
Those are the
that's
best.
what I want.
Pretty cool.
So I would take that in a heartbeat. As for 2025, I want a cup. I want a cup. It would be really cool if he could go back to back and we could win a cup in 25 and be the first town to have NBA and NHL champions at the same time.
Same building.
That
Would that be
in
cool?
the
Same building, same
that
building.
would be stunning.
That would be really cool.
That would be-
I would love
That
that.
would be stunning.
Having a tandem duck boat parade
That would be-
down Causeway would be pretty sick. I think that's cool. As far as AI goes, listen, I think it's clearly a huge buzzword, but I'm looking at it to engage with the fan. I'm looking at it for guest experience. Conversation last night, we were talking about, I really do feel like, especially in my world, from hockey being, okay, let's be honest, it's number 4 in the big 4 sports leagues, and that's okay. But as a custodian of the game, as one who wants to proselytize for the greatness of what's happening on the ice, we have to teach the next generation what's going on. We have to bring new fans into the building. We have to make it exciting, because there's nothing like going to an NHL game live and seeing that for yourself.
Cool.
So, but you don't have the broadcasters telling you what's going on. You're not really sure what's happening. It's a different kind of
Fascinating.
experience. So education, I think, plays a huge part in acceptance. So if I can use AI and machine learning to educate a new person to the game about what's going on, why does this matter? Why are these players in these positions? Why is this a high percentage shot point? That matters. and it's exciting. So that to me would be the greatest way for us to continue to grow our game collectively
Love that.
by using machine learning and AI to do so.
Love that.
Wow.
Yeah, if Josh gets a speeder, I want a transporter.
See, that was the other thought. That was my other thought. I'm like, oh, that'd be cool.
That's the one that would kill me
Yeah.
because I'd love to be in multiple places very quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
I could use one.
Yeah.
No more traffic.
No more traffic. So,
Well, gentlemen, it's been a privilege for DisrupTV to be here. Josh, Jay, Michael, Brian, again, soon to be 39, again, crossing fingers, 39 championship amongst the teams that you are technology leaders of. And thank you for, your shared wisdom. Certainly expanded our minds, and we look forward to doing this again. And when there is a parade, we're going to all be there. So thank you so much for watching. I just want to mention that we're not going to have a show next week, but we will return on the 6th. Dominic Rizzo, ex-Google leader, founder of Google Open Titan Project, and founder and CEO of Zero Risk. We'll have Alex Deng, CEO and co-author of The Venture Mindset, and Michael Norton, author of Ritual Effect, From Habit to Ritual, Harness the Surprising Power of Everyday Actions. So thank you again for watching Disrupt. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Ray, closing remarks.
and normally if it's Friday, it's DisrupTV. And see you guys all. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Cheers.